Tēnā tātou katoa. Good evening. A ministerial inquiry into the problem of forestry debris or slash on the east coast has resulted in damning findings. It describes an environmental disaster unfolding in plain sight. The report blames the forestry sector for losing its social licence and for poor practice in the Tairawhiti region. It's also critical of the Gisborne District Council for giving into what it calls a permissive regulatory regime. And it slams successive governments for decades of underfunding to Tairawhiti's failing infrastructure. Former Minister Hikia Parata was at times emotional as the report was delivered saying her people are in peril. The inquiry has made 50 recommendations and given a time frame of just 5 to 10 years to stop the problem. Leighton Hakel reports.
The East Coast is a community devastated by disaster. 3 months ago, it was Cyclone Gabrielle.
It was so horrible.
Just a month before that, Cyclone Hale.
If you did this to your neighbour's property, where would you be?
Today, the scars still remain on the beaches of Tairawhiti and in the hearts and minds of the people who call this place home.
We are tired, we are exhausted. It's as if it's a continual fight.
Former Minister Hikia Parata is hurt too.
It's heartbreaking.
Parata led a ministerial inquiry into the problem of woody debris, slash and sediment, which devastated the communities of Tairawhiti and Wairoa during Cyclone Gabrielle.
An environmental disaster is unfolding there in plain sight.
The report points to a number of failures from successive governments, the forestry sector and the Gisborne District Council. It says we have to act now.
Before it likely becomes irretrievable and the potential for wide-scale land collapse becomes real. And then the potential for Ngāti Porou to be rendered homeless and refugees in their own land could become a reality.
It makes 50 recommendations, key ones being the establishment of a task force to lead the clean-up, funded largely by the forestry sector, and a halt to wide-scale forestry felling. It also calls for a shift to a variety of different land uses and for some critical areas to be reverted to native forests.
There are parts that are absolutely in crisis and therefore these recommendations are by definition critical.
When you look at the report, you look at the devastation that we've had from the two cyclone events, there needed to be change.
And while not everyone in the sector will be happy,
the reality is our industry needs to be reset. This is a mechanism that's enabling that to happen.
The government won't commit to the recommendations just yet, but says discussing the report is an urgent priority.
You can't hide from the slash. The slash is everywhere. It's all over the road, in our waterways, on our lands, on our beaches. So we can't hide from this, which is why those meetings will be taking place with urgency next week.
Tokumaru Bay resident Lillian Te Hau Ward hopes it isn't just talk.
Until we get to a stage where we can sit down, plan and talk and support any work going forward, we're always going to be sceptical.
Because the community is still hurt and still healing.
We once had beautiful, white, pristine beaches.
But there's hope on the horizon that with this report, crucial change will happen and those beaches will be beautiful once again.
Well, Leighton joins us now live. Kia ora, Leighton. What happens next?
Well, Penny Henare says that this is urgent and he will be meeting with other ministers to go over it on Monday. Chris Hipkins, the Prime Minister, also says that changes will come from this. Whether that's all the recommendations or just some, that remains to be seen. But there is a huge appetite for change on the East Coast after years of devastation. Now, ministers will also have to meet with Gisborne's Mayor, who is not happy. The report was highly critical of her council on multiple accounts, and she says she's extremely disappointed and it went out of its scope. But what the report did make clear is that the status quo cannot continue and changes need to be made now.
Leighton, ngā mihi, thanks so much.